Ask Dan Schneider. On this Ask Dan Schneider, I am answering an email from someone named Kripnash. Kripnash asked me, Dan, since you've watched a lot of movies, what do you think of James Bond? And which Bond do you think is the best? Well, I've watched probably more than half of the current, or the Bond series rather. Um, I grew up during the Roger Moore years. I recently, last year, rewatched the Sean Connery Bonds, the first five, and I'll probably post the reviews of them at some point in the future. I will say that uh, I still am a Roger Moore fan. The last Bond film that I saw in the theaters was, I think, the second Timothy Dalton one. So I go through the mid to late 80s. After that, Bond sort of became irrelevant. Pierce Brosnan, I've seen clips. He might be okay in the role. Daniel Craig seems totally un-Bond-like. This the suggestion by some people that a black guy be hired to play James Bond. This strikes me as kind of silly since Bond, I think in the books, is said to be Scottish. Um, but getting back to the question of the James Bond films, they were good, solid entertainments. The Connery films of the first five, Goldfinger is easily the best of them. But there are so many plot holes, gaps that looking back, it's kind of silly. It's better acted than the Star Wars films or any of the film franchises since. Um, but my favorite Bond, and I think the best Bond, was Roger Moore. Moore, to me, gave the cartoonish aspect of the character. They became even more cartoonish during his run. The Jaws, the guy who could bite through anything. Um, the the opening segments of the films that were unrelated were most spectacular then. Um, and I think Roger Moore was the original choice to play Bond. Some people have said some other people, including Patrick McGowan or David Niven. Um, but Connery was an unknown. Roger Moore had been in American television and was more well known. And his Bond has a sense of humor. His Bond can also kick some ass. And even though he was actually a few years older than Connery, uh, and when he took over the role, he was much older by the end of his run than Connery was at the end of his run. His Bond films still, to me, are the quintessential films. The Spy Who Loved Me is probably up there with Goldfinger, one of the two best of the Bond films, at least those I've seen. So that's the answer to my question. I'm not a Bond expert, but give me Roger Moore.